think the battle's won. Think again. The fact is, for each one we reach, there's one we can't. And if we can't reach them, chances are nobody can. Because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
What's up, family? Welcome to Unauthorized History. Now, this topic is going to be a little bit heavy, family, just to forewarn you. When you're studying Black history and all the achievements that Black people have made, a lot of those achievements haven't been made without some sort of strife or some sort of struggle. And some things happened back then that were just downright atrocious. So we're going to get into the kissing case. In 1958, 9-year-old James Hanover Thompson and 7-year-old David Fuzzy Simpson were playing with some friends in a white neighborhood in Monroe, North Carolina, when some of the kids suggested that one of the little white girls give them a kiss on the cheek. That little white girl was Sissy Marcus. James and David thought nothing of the kiss. They actually thought it was cool, and they continued playing. However, later that day, when Sissy Marcus made it home, she told her mother, Bernice Marcus, who became enraged at the fact that she kissed the little black boy, and she immediately washed the little girl's mouth out. But that was only the beginning. She then called the police and accused James and David of R-ing her daughter. You guys know this is YouTube, so I can't really say some of the hard words. So if you know where I'm going with that, you know the hard R is you know what. Now, the local law enforcement unlawfully detained James and David and barred their family from seeing them for over a week. Now, mind you, these were just kids. These were a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old being detained by law enforcement. During this time, they were repeatedly beaten and threatened by the police to force a false confession from them. The boys were charged by juvenile judge Hampton Price and convicted of molestation and sentenced to reform school until they were 21 years old. Now, once the details surrounding this incident started getting out, the KKK actually burned crosses in their parents' yards, and white people sometimes drove by their houses shouting racial slurs and shooting at their home. It wasn't uncommon for them to come outside and be sweeping away gunshot shells that had been shot overnight. News reports of the incident spread across the U.S., and this case became known as the kissing case. The boys were imprisoned in the North Carolina State Reformatory in Hoffman in October 1958. When the NAACP found out about the case, they raised money to hire a lawyer to appeal the young boys' sentencing. Civil rights leader Robert F. Williams, head of the Monroe chapter of the NAACP, raised protests about the arrest and the sentencing. Williams called Conrad Lynn, a noted black civil rights lawyer from New York, who came to aid in the boys' defense. Former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt tried to talk with the North Carolina governor. At first, the local and state governments refused to back down in the case. Governor Luther H. Hodges and State Attorney General Malcolm B. Sewell, who was appointed by Hodges, traveled to Monroe to prosecute the boys. Now, at this point, the case was starting to blow up all over the U.S., and it actually reached an international level. And Joyce Eggington, a journalist for the UK's London Observer at the time, traveled to North Carolina to visit the boys. She snuck in their mothers, who had not been allowed to see them for weeks, and took pictures. Her photographs were published, showing the boys had been severely beaten and abused by the arresting police. Her story of the case and the related photo were printed throughout Europe and Asia, and the London Observer ran a photograph of the children's reunion with their mothers under the headline, "Why?" The United States Information Agency reported receiving more than 12,000 letters regarding the case, with most people expressing outrage at the arrest. An international committee was formed in Europe to defend Thompson and Simpson. At the international level, huge demonstrations against the U.S. were held in Paris, Rome, Vienna, and Rotterdam in response to this case. In the latter city, protesters stoned the U.S. consulate. The U.S. government suffered international embarrassment and shame. In February 1959, North Carolina officials asked the boys' mothers to sign a waiver to obtain the release of their children. The waiver actually required the boys to admit to being guilty of the charges, and the mothers refused to sign. Now, isn't that something? To save face and to improve their public and their international image, they were willing to force these mothers to sign a confession having these boys admit to being guilty. And good on them for refusing to sign that, because that was out of line. 2 days later, after the boys had spent 3 months in detention, the governor pardoned Thompson and Simpson without conditions or explanations. The state and the city never apologized to the boys or their families for the treatment. Commenting on it in 2011, Brenda Lee Graham, Thompson's sister, said that he was never the same after these events. Family, that was a little bit heavy. And if you guys are familiar with some parts of Black history, especially when it comes to interracial interactions, you know there are several cases throughout the South and across the U.S. of Black men being accused of the R word or the M word and were simply innocent. Most of them were just victims of circumstances. And it's very unfortunate, but it did happen. So family, please let me know your thoughts on this video down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back with another video very soon. All right, peace family.